good evening and a very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the main news. My name is Farai Gwazi.
And I'm Joyce Mabika. Noble Mongo is on sign language. Later on, Bukela Maposa will be joining us from our Montrose studios in Bulawayo. Let's take a look at our leading stories tonight. President Emmerson Mnangagwa holds bilateral talks with his South African counterpart, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in Musina.
The two heads of state also toured border facilities in the area.
In the arts, Albert Nyati and Derek Mpofu to co-author a chapter in World Health Organization book.
And in sport, a FIFA Normalization Committee unveils 2026 World Cup roadmap.
World Cup qualifiers set to get underway in November. And now for the news in detail, the Beitbridge Border Modernization Project has impressed South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. This came out when President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his South African counterpart toured infrastructure on either side of the border. Our diplomatic correspondent Josephine Mugio with our first report.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa met with his South African counterpart, President Cyril Ramaphosa, this Thursday in the South African border town of Musina. Soon after he arrived, they had a closed-door session, after which President Mnangagwa was taken on a tour of some of the facilities of the Beitbridge border post on the South African side. After that, President Emmerson Mnangagwa returned the favor and took President Ramaphosa on a tour of the new-look Beitbridge border post. President Ramaphosa was impressed with the infrastructure, noting that as South Africa, they will copy the infrastructure for their country. Separated by the Limpopo River, the two countries cooperate on various fronts, which include trade, with South Africa being Zimbabwe's biggest trading partner. Speaking after completing a tour on the Zimbabwean border, President Ramaphosa was impressed by the modernization project, noting that South Africa has a lot to learn from Zimbabwe in terms of the infrastructural development.
He wanted me to come and see what he has done on the Zimbabwean side. And I've just now seen the improvement, the build-up of the infrastructure for border control on the Zimbabwean side. And I feel a little bit of an underperformer because my elder brother has done much better. And I have now come here to learn, to see exactly what we need to do on the South African side, because in order to enhance our relationships at a political, commercial, people-to-people level, we've got to modernize our movement, people movement, trade movement, infrastructure. So we've come here, and I'm here with the minister who is in charge of immigration, to see how best we can copy what Zimbabwe has done.
President Mnangagwa said the idea to have a joint tour of the border was mooted in New York when the two leaders met on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly.
We met in New York. The chat is brothers, and then my dear brother told me he was coming to Messina for a visit. Then I said, since he was coming here, why don't I also come and we meet, because this is the border. I don't think it's a good thing for my brother to come at the border, just the river in between, and I'm not there. So I decided also to come. As a result of that, we decided I visit his side and he visits my side. So what else would you want when two brothers meet and break bread?
Earlier on, the two heads of state briefed the media on the cordial relations between Zimbabwe and South Africa, stressing the need to facilitate more trade.
If the two of us continuously meet and chat, why should not our people at the border have the same relationship? What we can see here and what we are going to see on the Zimbabwe side, we want these two units or entities to talk to each other as good as the two presidents talk to each other. That's why I am here.
We want to ensure that our two border processes function well as to enhance ease of movement of our people and ease of movement of goods so that trade between the two countries can be improved.
As the two presidents met, emphasis was on the need to ensure relations between the two countries continue to grow. Josephine Mugio, ZBC News, Beitbridge Border Post.
The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has launched gold-backed digital tokens under the name ZIG, which stands for Zimbabwe Gold, as a transacting and investment product.
Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor Dr. John Mangudya told ZBC News this Thursday that members of the public can now transact using ZIG. This includes paying for goods and services.
It means that today, if you go to a bank, you'll be having three accounts. One account with the Zimbabwe dollars, the account with the foreign currency account, and then the third account is now called a ZIG account. So what it means is that from today onwards, you can now transact or send money to a person through ZIG platform, or you can pay goods and services from a shop by using ZIG. You can also send to your relatives a ZIG, and therefore the ZIG is being transformed. Apart from it being a saving or as an investment for value preservation, we're also using that value preservation product for purposes of transacting. It's all measured in milligrams.
The central bank governor also explained the reasons leading to the introduction of the gold-backed digital token in Zimbabwe.
We hope and believe that this product is a good product for Zimbabwe. It's a good product for value preservation, a good product for purposes of transacting. Is it a currency? No, it's not a currency. It is an investment product that we are using for purposes of transaction. And it sits on our RTGS system, in other words, the real-time gross settlement system. Do you have the gold in Zimbabwe? Yes, we have the gold. Do you have the gold? Is it the Reserve Bank that is backing these tokens? Yes, for the gold.
The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has since directed local banks to open ZIG accounts for individuals and business entities across the country. Stanley James, ZBC News, Harare.
The energy sector has been on a growth trajectory over the last couple of years, aided by the various policy interventions instituted by the Second Republic to eradicate bottlenecks which have impacted negatively on the sector's progress for years.
The Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority ZERA annual report of 2022 shows that 1.7 billion liters of fuel was imported against 1.04 billion liters imported in 2021. In terms of total energy supplied, 10,710 gigawatts per hour were recorded in 2022 against 10,193 gigawatts per hour the previous year. A total of 18 new electricity licenses were recorded in 2022 compared to 17 in 2021, while a total of 905 new retail sites were registered in 2022 compared to 882 licenses in 2021. The report also shows an increase in the consumption of LP gas, whereby 55.9 million kilograms of the commodity was imported last year against 56.7 million kilograms of LP gas which was brought in the previous year. The results in the 2022 annual ZERA report attest to the economy and the industry, which is firing from all cylinders, as shown by the rising consumption of energy across all product categories. For example, the mining sector has recorded an unprecedented boom, whereby new mines have been opened while the old ones have been resuscitated, a huge factor triggering a rise in energy demand. Owen Mandova, ZBC News, Harare.
Preparations for the ZANU PF National People's Conference as set for Gweru have gone a gear up, with the party's National Conference Coordination Committee descending on Gweru to assess the state of preparedness.
ZANU PF National Chairperson, Comrade Opam Chinguri Kashiri, who was leading the delegation, implored the organizing committee to act with speed to ensure the venue is ready to host the high-level event.
Today's meeting is the second meeting of the Conference Coordination Committee. And as I pointed out in our inaugural meeting on Monday, 2 October 2023, time is not on our side as the National People's Conference is just around the corner. We need to work diligently to execute our mandates as dictated by the already approved conference roadmap. We have a daunting task ahead of us. I just hope that the conference documents, as expected, would be ready at the shortest time possible.
National People's Conference, which comes on the backdrop of the ruling party's electoral victory in the 2023 general elections, will give ZANU PF time to take stock of its gains as it plans for the future. The conference will be held from the 27th to the 28th of this month. Tafara Chikumira, ZBC News, Gweru.
A former ZANU PF youth member, Jim Kunaka, who contested the August 23 general elections as an independent candidate, has dumped opposition politics and rejoined the ruling party.
After having joined the opposition 6 years ago, ZANU PF prodigal son Jim Kunaka has retraced his footsteps back to the ruling party.
Munozviziva ndaimbovamo muZANU PF ndikabudawo 2017, so pazuva ranhasi ndatora danho iri mushure mekuongorora zvinhu zvakati wandei kuti regai ndidzokere kumba kunova kuZANU PF ndisapote musangano wangu weZANU PF unova musangano wakatirera ukatikudza kusvika tasvika patari nhasi.
Kunaka castigated the way opposition political parties are being run, saying they resemble personal ventures.
There is lack of ideology, vision, hakuna. Kungoitwawo mazvake. So, if you go back to ZANU PF, you could see they are consistent. Nema policies avo, vision yavo, ndo yavanoramba vachitevedza, ideology yavo, ndo yavanoramba vachitevedza. Saka ndaona kuti vakomana, munhu ari kubuda muimba yakanaka kudai, ndadirei kuda kuzongonoita zvinhu zvisina hwaro wakajeka. Uku kumoko.
In the just ended general elections, Kunaka contested as an independent candidate for Southampton constituency. The ZANU PF-led government is rolling out several developmental projects for the benefit of the citizenry, which is attracting main opposition political party members to the ruling party. Peter Chivima, ZBC News, Harare.
Government has directed all idle COVID-19 centers to be converted into drug rehabilitation centers as the battle against drug abuse intensifies. Let's get more of that story.
The National Committee on Drugs and Substance Abuse, chaired by the Minister of Defense, Honorable Opam Chinguri Kashiri, has come up with various interventions to curb the menace of drug and substance abuse facing the country. These were outlined by the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Dr. Jennifer Muskwere, in this Wednesday's post-Cabinet media briefing.
Cabinet agreed on the following measures in order to strengthen and consolidate the anti-drug and substance abuse program. There are two pillars dealing with legal and policy, and at the same time, an addition of a finance and resource mobilization committee will be constituted. That all idle provincial COVID-19 isolation facilities will be converted into multi-sectorial drug rehabilitation centers. That Dr. Agnes Mahomba will be appointed as the national coordinator of the Interministerial Task Force on Drugs and Substance Abuse. That government will urgently resume capacitation of sub-national structures, including the traditional leaders and the religious group leadership on drug and substance abuse. That all citizens are urged to participate in efforts at all levels in terms of the consultations that are taking place across the country. And that all media houses and media practitioners have a shared responsibility to identify the networks, the distributors, the types, and also to inform the nation with respect to the effects, and also to report on the basis of all the drug peddlers within all the communities, and also to expose all the drug dealers and peddlers and all the criminal networks associated with the abuse of drugs.
The setting up of more drug rehabilitation centers across the country is expected to help those affected to get professional help. This comes after government opened the first standalone drug rehabilitation center at Chipadze Detox Center in Bindura, while hospitals continue to offer rehabilitation services. Abigail Tembo, ZBC News, Harare.
The Memorandum of Understanding sealed by government and the African Federation of Construction Contractors Association is expected to give huge impetus to the growth of the construction industry.
A cabinet has announced that the continental body, which represents players in member countries, will work closely with the Construction Industry Federation of Zimbabwe, CIFOS, in capacity building, which marks a new chapter in Zimbabwe's infrastructural development thrust.
The African Federation for Construction Constructors was formed in 2006 in Cairo for the purpose of creating and developing the professional ties amongst constructors in African countries. Our interest basically is seeing to it that our construction industry also keeps apace with the developments within its field in relation to what is happening in the rest of the continent.
CIFOS President Mr. Martin Chingaira welcomed the development, saying it will give huge impetus to the growth of the industry.
We are all aware that Egypt has actually built a new capital, which is New Cairo. And when you go to New Cairo, you will see the technology, you will see the infrastructure which has been built by this technology, which is massive, whereby we are all looking forward to take what is in Egypt to Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe has got a lot to learn from the new Cairo, which has been built in Egypt.
Since the year 2018, the country has witnessed the rise of local construction companies, which have been outstanding in spearheading the building of the country's infrastructure. Owen Mandova, ZBC News, Harare.
Women and children have been the hardest hit by climate change-induced disasters, with the government putting in place gender-sensitive response mechanisms to protect vulnerable groups. See more on that story.
The Ministry of Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprises Development, through its partner organizations CARE International and UNDP, convened a meeting in Harare for gender and disaster risk management stock taking. This comes as the ministry launched the Climate Change Gender Action Plan to channel resources towards capacity building and integrating gender perspectives into policies, plans and practices that address the vulnerabilities of women and girls. The Minister of Women Affairs, Small and Medium Enterprises Development, Senator Monica Mtwangwa, noted that climate-induced disasters are now a reality, with women and children bearing the brunt.
We all know who is affected more by this. They often exacerbate existing inequalities and disproportionately affect women, girls, men and boys in different ways. However, it's sad to state that the worsening impacts of such disasters lead to highly gendered impacts which largely affect women and girls. Violence against women and young girls is also a factor during the post-disaster.
Care International Zimbabwe Country Director, Mr. Patrick Sakana, commended the government on its commitment with regards to gender-sensitive disaster risk reduction, adding that more still needs to be done.
For every dollar invested in the resilience of women, we save not $3, but $5 in emergency. Why? It's because women will always be, or have been, the first responders when there is a disaster that has happened.
The gathering provided participants with an opportunity to reflect on the progress made as a nation, commitments to fostering resilience and equality in the face of disasters, and outline preparations for COP28 in Dubai. Memory Chamisa, ZBC News, Harare.
Zimbabwe is set to lead the global population and development discourse when it hosts 27 other countries for a two-day high-level international consultative conference, which gets underway on Sunday in Victoria Falls.
The 20th International Interministerial Conference on South-South as well as triangular cooperation in population and development will test the world's preparedness to respond to issues around sexual reproductive health and rights. It will also look at population development ahead of the International Conference on Population and Development ICPD 30 slated for next year. Speaking at a media briefing in Harare this Wednesday, Health and Child Care Minister Dr. Douglas Mombeshwara said the conference will enhance Zimbabwe's international standing as host of the multilateral event.
The objectives of this conference will be to provide a high-level global forum for multi-dimensional dialogue, advocacy, peer review, and shared commitment to 1. Celebrate 30 years of progress in achieving ICPD program of action, while setting the stage to recommit and focus on the future. Secondly, to depolarize the ICPD agenda on some key issues and aim to bring everyone together to reinvigorate our common drive for the goals. Thirdly, to shape the future agenda for ICPD. And fourthly, to strengthen South-South and triangular cooperation as an accelerator in the achievement of ICPD goals.
At the last ICPD 25 held in Nairobi, Kenya, member states, including Zimbabwe, pledged to address maternal deaths, unmet needs for family planning services, and gender-based violence. Next week's meeting is expected to take stock of achievements made so far towards the set objectives. Abigail Tembo, ZBC News, Harare.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa has appointed Justice Lois Matanda Moyo as the new Prosecutor General with immediate effect. Justice Matanda Moyo was the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission since May 2019. She has a vast experience in the justice delivery system, having served as a magistrate, state advisor in the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, state counsel, and member of the criminal division of the Attorney General, prosecuting in the High and Supreme Courts. She rose through the ranks to the post of Director Civil Division and Director Public Prosecuting before being appointed Judge of the Labour Court in 2009 and Judge of the High Court in 2013. She also served as the chairperson of the Land Acquisition Task Force and represented Zimbabwe in international cases on human rights.
These and more stories are available on our website at www.zbcnews.co.zw. Still to come in this bulletin. Albert Nyati and Derek Mpofu to co-author a chapter in World Health Organization book.
And in sport, a FIFA Normalization Committee unveils a 2026 World Cup roadmap. World Cup qualifiers are set to get underway in November. Take a short break and be right back with more. Stay tuned.
In a world of an ever-changing and volatile financial markets landscape, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has introduced a cutting-edge financial instrument that combines stability and convenience. The ZIG, a gold-backed digital token, and now unveils an added feature, the ability to transact in this instrument. 1. As a bank customer, you approach your bank to buy ZIG tokens denominated in milligrams, payable in Zim dollars or US dollars. 2. Minimum purchase of ZIG by individuals is 10 US dollars and corporates is 5,000 US dollars or the Zimbabwean dollar equivalent. 3. Once ZIG has been purchased, the holder will, in addition to their existing bank account, now have a ZIG account denominated in milligrams of gold. 4. The bank client can now transact using their ZIG account through swipe and online payments. 5. A holder can keep ZIG balances for transacting or store of value purposes with a redemption option in US dollars or Zim dollars depending on their preference after a 180-day vesting period. 6. Goods and services will also be priced in ZIG. Tap into the power of ZIG, the Zimbabwe Gold. ZIG. Stability, security, and convenience.
$1,500 movies? I don't want this flight to end.
Welcome back. You are still watching the main news. The city of Harare could be sitting on a potential time bomb in the wake of revelations that there is limited burial space with only 2 privately owned cemeteries serving the capital city.
A battle for space between the living and the dead. These images mirror the current challenges faced by the city of Harare. Cemeteries are supposed to be resting places for the dead, but the living are seemingly oblivious to the sacred nature of the land they have turned into a business ground. The situation goes deeper to reveal an unfolding crisis in Harare, a shortage of burial space that has moved graves within just inches of residential areas. Granville Cemetery, popularly known as Kombodzi, gives an insight into a potential crisis the capital city is facing.
Authorities in Jimbo, dzinoigwa vanhu ngavatsvage imwe nzvimbo, imwe space, because kunoku if you look at it vanongona kwese kwazara, but hatina 3-4 years makuva azara isaya.
Zvinototinetsa kuti saka tichandovigwa kupi, ndosaka tichikumbira nzvimbo yakakura yokuti tichengeterwe, vanhu vanoshayikira munowane pokuchengeterwa.
Zvinhu zvachinja zvishuwa, kudhara space yaive yakazara tichitofungidzira kuti aya vanhu havambopedze pese apa hapambozari, asi izvezvi tiri kuona hei pazara kusisina space, kana isusu kuti tizive tichavigwawo kupi, time yatichazofa hatichatozivi.
These fears are real. Almost 2 years back, a document highlighting the status of burial space in Harare showed Warren Hills, Greendale, and Bari cemeteries had reached capacity. Mavuku back then was at 90%, Mbudzi was at 80%, Glen Forest was at 70% in 2020, while Zororo Cemetery was fairly new. Discussions for alternative burial space started with a proposal for a joint venture between Harare City Council and a private player, Zamboko Properties, to identify and develop alternative cemetery space. A cabinet resolution was reached advising alternative land be identified for cemetery space after a proposal to develop Istone was turned down. Suspected lethargy at the Harare City Council appears to have stalled implementation of the project, even as they admit to a possible crisis of burial space.
Indeed, we are facing a shortage of burial space in Harare. So we identified pieces of land in Nyabira, in Beatrice, and in Shamba, as far as Shamba. What will then happen is our Department of Physical Planning and the Physical Planning Department from the Ministry of Local Government will have to work on the land in those three places and then identify which is the best land for the next burial place for the people in Harare.
The slow decision-making by the local authority has left many vulnerable. The two functional cemeteries, Zororo and Glen Forest, are privately owned and beyond what many can afford. People like Gogong Tongogara can only hope the authorities will be responsive to the current realities.
Vamwe ikoko kuti chazoenda kundovigwa vamwe tinenge tisina kana mari yekusvika ikoko kana yekubhadhara ikoko kumwe kunodhura kumwe kwakaita sei tiri idambudziko iroro tiri kutosanganawo naro handizivi kuti tichaita sei tinongozviisa kuna Mwari kuti ndiye achaziva patichaenda.
Residents associations and urban planning experts have also highlighted the need for speedy implementation of the project.
We urge the city of Harare to expedite the process of identifying a new burial ground so that people are not forced to the more expensive privately owned cemeteries.
Without alternative cemetery space, land barons are already seizing the current gaps. Theophilus Chuma, ZBC News, Harare.
The First Lady, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa, has joined the Global Gastronomy Tourism Champions in Donostia, San Sebastian, in Spain for the 8th United Nations World Tourism Organization Forum on Gastronomy.
Following an invitation by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, the First Lady, Dr. Auxilia Mnangagwa, this Thursday attended the 8th United Nations World Tourism Organization Forum on Gastronomy in Donostia, San Sebastian, Spain, where she received wide commendation for promoting gastronomy tourism, which has prospects to foster development in the country and can be used as an example for Africa and the world at large. Dr. Mnangagwa, who becomes the first African First Lady to be invited to the forum since its inception, was selected to make a presentation on African gastronomy and empowering communities in recognition of her exceptional work, which has attracted global attention. Her selection comes at a time when Zimbabwe was recognized for achieving the UNWTO standards on gastronomy tourism. Held under the theme Back to the Roots, the 3-day forum, where Zimbabwe and Botswana are representing Africa, brings together industry professionals, leading experts, and institutional representatives from across the world to share best practices and promote gastronomy tourism as a factor of development for destinations. In addition, the forum also brings to the fore linkages between tourism, gastronomy, and producers in fostering rural development, promoting sustainability, and the preservation of cultural heritage. The First Lady, who is patron of tourism and hospitality, holds a university degree from Switzerland and has a deep appreciation of the tourism and hospitality sector. Through a countrywide traditional meal cookout competition, which has since gone regional, Mnangagwa has promoted the preservation of traditional dishes which have high nutritional and medicinal value. Addressing delegates, Dr. Mnangagwa shared the success story of a traditional cuisine program and how it has impacted communities by promoting innovative ideas and opportunities for entrepreneurship among various groups, including women, youths, persons with disabilities, and tertiary students.
The Zimbabwean experience in empowering communities through traditional cuisine came to light in 2021 through my passion as the First Lady of the Republic of Zimbabwe and patron of the tourism and hospitality industry to promote and preserve our culture and tradition, having realized the gap between generations in terms of consuming traditional foods and the imminent threats to our values through cultural dilution, I introduced the traditional cookout program in Zimbabwe. This was meant, among other things, to encourage our people to consume more of traditional foods than the fast foods, in a way to ensure a healthy living. The traditional cookout program in Zimbabwe is rolled out on an annual basis throughout cookout competitions held at district, provincial, national, and regional levels, targeting local communities. Since the beginning of the program in Zimbabwe, I've noticed increasing creativity and innovative ideas among our people in coming up with unique traditional dishes. Of interest also is that male contestants have also joined the race, challenging women in preparing best dishes, including people with disabilities as well as college students. This is in sync with Zimbabwe's thrust on inclusivity, leaving no one and no place behind. With the knowledge and skills obtained from the previous competitions, some communities are now running traditional foods restaurants, and others have already started exporting their products to other countries. This means that apart from contesting annually, most women have turned their talents into businesses to earn a living, thereby contributing to poverty alleviation. We invite you all to our 4th edition of the Traditional Gastronomy Tourism Program to be held next year in May 2024. Come to Africa and enjoy the African taste.
UNWTO Secretary General Mr. Zurab Pololika-Shefele lauded the First Lady for her dedication towards the promotion of African gastronomy tourism, pledging his organization's commitment to support the noble initiative.
I would like to thank the First Lady from Zimbabwe.
Welcome to Spain. Spain is my second home. I can welcome you. Welcome to San Sebastian, another my very close part of my heart is San Sebastian, and I'm sure that you will be back. You will be in love in this fantastic place. And we have to promote African gastronomy. We are committed. We are working quite hard, very hard, and your presence again is another step. Count on our full support, and I'm sure that with Zimbabwe and with your neighbor countries, with African brothers and sisters, we are ready to promote and to make African culture as promoted as it deserved.
Mayor of Donosia San Sebastian, Mr. Eneko Goya, acknowledged local communities as pillars of gastronomy tourism.
I think humbly that the secret of the Basque gastronomy, known worldwide, is due to the fact that we have never left our roots behind. Revolution starting by evolution, by the roots. And that takes us to another ingredient that will be very much present these days, which is local produce and local producers. If we can understand that the production chain starts with local produce and making these products with time and with care and having it in our tables, then we will have made a great step forward.
During the high-level panel discussion on enhancing linkages between tourism and agriculture, the Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry, Honorable Barbara Rodzi, spoke on how the First Lady's initiatives have shaped the interrelationship between gastronomy tourism and agriculture in Zimbabwe.
I would like to thank the Secretary General for inviting our First Lady and the first African First Lady representative to be here at the gastronomy conference. The challenges that we face about gastronomy, tourism and agriculture is, number one, the natural one about climate change that can affect the agriculture. However, our First Lady took it upon herself to start a program called Agric for She that promotes women in the communities to ensure and empower them so that the gastronomy has sustainability. The gastronomy program continues, whereby women in our country are promoted and are provided with the inputs for the traditional seeds that we use for our traditional food. For the past 2 years, since the inception of that program, it has grown to go beyond traditional cuisines only.
Definitely, the support and leadership of your First Lady is going to take you
absolutely far, maybe be an example for the rest of the world, because, you know, whatever happens in Africa is going to make an impact.
Dr. Mnangagwa is also promoting the production of traditional grains which adapt to the effects of climate change. Festus Mkunguritse, ZBC News, San Sebastian, Spain.
From Spain, we bring you back home, and work-related accidents remain a major cause for concern, with over 40 fatalities and above 2,000 crippling injuries having been recorded at the workplace in the first 6 months of the year.
Zimbabwe is reeling under undesirable occupational health statistics, which are costing the globe between 4 and 10% of gross domestic product. The second day of the National Social Security Authority Safety and Health at Work Indaba in Victoria Falls revealed that Zimbabwe has recorded 40 fatalities and above 2,000 crippling injuries at the workplace between January and June this year.
In the first 6 months of this year, January to June 2023, we have already recorded 2,240 disabling injuries, of which 30 were fatal, compared to 2,554 injuries and 44 fatalities recorded in the same period last year.
ILO reminded the world to be cognizant of various global dynamics in addressing issues of occupational safety and health at the workplace.
The climate change epidemics and pandemics, including COVID-19, have transformed the occupational risk profiles and rendered the renowned and past control measures ineffective. This, Honorable Minister, magnifies the need for the OSHA authorities to reposition themselves and forge new partnerships, so they provide up-to-date and responsive guidances on effective implementation of OSHA management systems at enterprise levels.
Labor and employers pledged to enhance safety and health at the workplace.
Organized labor, Honorable Minister, will continue to promote and invest all efforts to enhance occupational safety and health under the decent work agenda.
We need to create more awareness of the national policy on occupational safety and health to improve on buy-in and implementation.
On the globe, an estimated 2.78 million workers die from occupational accidents and work-related diseases each year. Tichaona Kurewa, ZBC News, Victoria Falls.
Let's now cross over to our Montrose studio, where we're joined by Sibugele Maphosa. Sibu, good evening, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Joyce and Farai. Good evening, Zimbabwe. Let's carry on with the news. Service delivery is set to improve in the town of Redcliff after the commissioning of new service vehicles, including an ambulance, in yet another Second Republic milestone development.
Poor road network and waste management are said to be relegated to the archives in Redcliff after the municipality acquired top-of-the-range service vehicles to attend to problem areas.
Space.
The Second Republic is prioritizing improved livelihoods through quality service provision.
Comrade Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa has placed great emphasis on the decentralization and devolution of power, recognizing the need to empower local authorities in order to foster development at grassroots level. It is with this understanding that the government has directed the resources through devolution funds, allowing local authorities to take charge of their own development agenda.
Since the inception of the Second Republic, local authorities have received substantial amounts of money under the devolution program as government walks the talk in the inclusive development agenda. Tafaraj Kumira, ZBC News, Redcliff.
Rural development initiatives are gaining traction in fulfillment of the devolution agenda with the adoption of the integral Kumusha concept in Buhera targeted at ending hunger and poverty in rural communities.
The Taranika homestead in Mukoto village of Buhera
has become a center of agriculture excellence in the drought-prone district after the adoption of the integral Kumusha concept that seeks to improve livelihoods in rural areas. Mrs. Taranike, popularly known as Mai Chimuti, who represents vulnerable women in rural areas, spoke on how the concept has transformed the entire village.
Tinorima zvirimwa zvakaita sekuirrigation kwedu chibage, beans, matomatisi, zvakadaro zvese zvehorticulture. Asi kudryland kwedu kusina drip irrigation, tinomirira mvura yemudenga. Tinorima tsanga diki dzechivanhu dzakaita senyimo, nzungu, mapfunde, masunflower. Izvo zvinoita zvikuru muno mubwera, zvinoshingaira muzuva. Saka tinoda kuzvirima ikoko kudryland. Ndo zvatinorima. Tinoita futi huchi pano uye semadzimai takaita boka redu ratakabatana nemadzimai atinoita mbudzi, club yedu yembudzi inonzi Meme Goat Project. Umwe nomwe mukadzi anga achichengeta mari yake tichiita mukando totenga mbudzi dzedu. Tichitaura pazvino in 1 year seni Samai Chimuti ndatova nembudzi 8 dzinosvika.
Co-founder of the Integral Kumusha project, Dr. Daut Taranike, says utilization of local resources is at the core of the new development concept.
We've got land, we've got nature, we've got the community, we've got our culture, we've got the science and technology, and we've got the opportunity to make a business. These are things at our disposal that we use to enhance communities, because our desire is to build viable homesteads.
The local community is already benefiting from its involvement in the projects that have also improved the food security.
Mvura kuno inotinetsei asi ivo vakaita mazano okuwana mvura.
Munharaunda vanowana pekutenga, havafambi kuinda kure kure. Uye munharaunda imomo tosumudza nharaunda. The
initiative has attracted the attention of local universities that are conducting research and supporting the project.
Our aim and our hope is that this can be multiplied into many regions and that it can be done on an industrial scale.
The concept is anchored on the Rural Development 8.0 initiative designed to transform and build resilient rural communities and lifted them out of poverty for the attainment of Vision 2030, Kenya's Chifusion. ZBC News, Mutari.
The World Cotton Day commemorations held in Harare this Thursday have brought to the fore the need to merge public and private player investments in the cotton value chain to propel rural industrialization.
Production of the white gold has been growing in leaps and bounds under the Second Republic, with the country expecting a record harvest as a result of a cocktail of measures that include the Pfumvudza Intwasa program that comes with free inputs and improved returns. However, the export of close to 90% of unprocessed lint has triggered a push by government and private players for value addition, which has seen cotton being designated an oilseed crop, with processing plants set to be established in rural communities.
Once the grower is produced, we need not to export like we do 90% of our lint unprocessed. We need to value add, which is why government through COTCO has now purchased the first oil expression plant, which is being installed at Kokwe. We want to replicate this model because that will lead to agro-industrialization, rural development, and facilitation of the attainment of Vision 2030. So government is taking the lead. There are many other private companies that are already involved in the cotton sector, doing feed, doing cake, doing oils. But we think that once we set up these in the rural areas where cotton production takes place, that will lead to acceleration of the transformation of rural communities.
While the financing model has been problematic in the past, COTCO is expecting to clear its backlog before the end of the month, while farmers believe the existing working conditions spare growth.
We are looking at the whole chain, from cotton right up to fabric, and then hopefully we'll then support those that will be manufacturing clothing and beyond. The banks did not have the liquidity that we require in order for us to pay the farmers. So, but we are looking to, as the minister said, pay them before the end of this month. So, but we've paid about 70%. So those that are still to be paid, it's cotton that we actually still have in the country. It's not yet gone to the market. So, but our bankers, we are engaging them so that they can release the balance of that money so we can pay the farmers.
We need to move away from exporting raw lint and raw seed cotton because that does not benefit the country at all. We need to add value before we actually then say we have a final product for sale or for export.
The final production of raw cotton fiber is expected to reach 100,000 tons, up from 48,000 tons from the previous season after the implementation of progressive strategies. Wellington Makonese, ZBC News, Harare.
And that's all from the Montrose News Desk. I am Sibyl Maposa, now handing you over to Joyce and Farai for more.
Thank you so much there, Sibu. Networking has been identified as a vital cog in telling the true Zimbabwean story within and beyond the country's borders.
With the world becoming a fast-paced and interconnected community, effective communication has been identified as key in driving growth, innovation and sustainable development. As part of ways to complement government efforts in marketing brand Zimbabwe, the Marketers Association of Zimbabwe launched the Zimbabwe Association of Business Communicators in Harare this Tuesday.
The motive behind the formation of the Zimbabwe Association of Business Communicators is to give a platform for communication personnel in business and other relevant organizations that will fit into the scope of what we want to do, to make sure that whatever we communicate on behalf of our organization is very professional and is the truth, and we are driving the strategic agendas of our organization.
Zvirongwa zvekutaurirana zvakanaka nekuti tinofamba pamwe chete mudonzvo rekusimudzira nyika yedu. Tiri kuzviziva kuti mamiriro ekunze akachinja panguva dzino. Kutaurirana kwakanaka kuti tizive kuti tingagadzira sei marimiro, magariro, kunyanga mabudisiro atinoita zvemabhizinisi munyika ino.
Guest of honor at the event and Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Dr. Jennifer Muswere, noted the importance of networking and the unity of purpose in marketing brand Zimbabwe.
The life, the success, the development of ZABC becomes of paramount importance to all the practitioners in Zimbabwe, because we have a responsibility to tell the Zimbabwean story. Because we have so many stories to talk about, the positive developments that have been achieved under the new dispensation. With the integrity and the values that have been articulated by Mr. Rusike, it is our hope, it is our wish, it is our desire that ZABC is going to transform the marketing, the PR platforms, the individuals, the experts in this country, for us to be able to ultimately build the brand Zimbabwe campaign.
The platform was also an opportunity for the association to choose board members who will steer ZABC for the next 2 years. The association is focusing on networking among marketers, corporate communicators and public affairs practitioners. Peter Chivima, ZBC News, Harare.
Beyond our country's borders, the avian flu outbreak in South Africa is threatening that country's supplies of poultry products, especially eggs and meat.
Reports say some supermarkets in South Africa have been forced to stop selling eggs or limit the number to customers in efforts to curb further spread of the bird flu, which may also infect humans. The South African Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development is already considering the possibility of having poultry vaccinated to curb the spread of the epidemic. Over 7.5 million egg-laying chickens have been culled due to the avian flu outbreak. So far, Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga and the Free State have been the most affected provinces.
Kenyan President Mr. William Ruto has reshuffled his cabinet and folded the Foreign Affairs Ministry into the office of the Chief Minister. President Ruto said the changes are necessary to optimize performance and enhance delivery as set out in the administration's manifesto. The Kenyan leader has faced a series of nationwide protests over the high cost of living and tax hikes since he took over in August last year. Mr. Ruto rose to power on a promise to champion the interests of impoverished hustlers, but his critics say tax increases on petrol and housing will hurt Kenyans already struggling to afford basic commodities such as maize flour.
Typhoon Koyeno has grazed Taiwan's southern tip, lashing the islands with strong winds ever recorded, killing one person and knocking out power to hundreds of thousands of homes. According to the Central Weather Administration, the typhoon made a landfall on the island's southern Cape Elundi Thursday morning and was weakening as it moved into the Taiwan Strait. Reports say around 2,400 homes on Orchid Islands are without power, while the classrooms of an elementary school were damaged by the powerful rains. Experts say climate change has made the paths of tropical storms harder to forecast, while increasing their intensity and leading to heavy rains, flash floods, and strong gusts.
On that note, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at business. Stay tuned.
You have helped build Tel One, a better Tel One and the world around us. A better world where we can live together, learn together, play together, work together, grow together. Our journey together continues today. Now we must focus on making our future even better. A better future for our children. Join us and let us do this together. Tell one, the future is better together.
Just close the doors, and you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination, it's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Welcome back. Economic clusters have a pledge to come up with policy documents which feed into government's developmental targets. Let's get more on that story from Stanley James.
The economic and thematic clusters of the Zimbabwe Institute of Strategic Thinking, ZIST, met in Harare this Thursday to assess current economic issues, identify challenges, and possible recommendations. A member of the economic cluster, Mr. Eddie Cross, says the need to develop workable policies to sustain current economic gains is critical.
I think government always should appreciate the intellectual input from its community, because the people gathering here are players. They are people who are actually engaged in the economy, people who know what the problems are. And I think it'd be a very good thing for ministers and in the different sectors, and also the president.
Health Thematic Committee member Ms. Lusimaro says resource mobilization to boost social amenities and vulnerable communities will enable government to achieve set development agenda goals.
The private sector should come to help the government in terms of innovating, co-creating and collaborating. We are saying that the government already has a sound health system structure, but as much as there is a sound systems that is already existing, there are also gaps that are there. And the private sector is coming in to collaborate in terms of looking at what is the structure like, how is it is already there, and how does it align with NDS 1.
Zimbabwe Institute of Strategic Thinking ZIST Chief Executive Officer Dr. Tinashe Muzamindo highlighted the importance of the engagement.
We will bring the input of commitment from people and will mobilize opinion leaders throughout the country so that they will be able to come together and share ideas, and then we share with the government, especially the idea of Vision 2030 and NDS 1 and 2.
The economic clusters and thematic committees include fields of the economy, gender and women development, peace and reconciliation, media, finance and banking, ICT, transport, institutions and health, among others. Stanley James, ZBC News, Harare.
And from our business update, we take you straight to the arts. Talented artists Albert Nyati and Derek Mpofu have added feathers to their artistic caps by co-authoring a chapter in the World Health Organization Global Health Essentials book.
After a series of health promotional songs focusing on HIV and AIDS as well as malaria, the duo of Albert Nyati and Derek Mpofu got recognition in the field of health education and landed a role to co-author a chapter in the WHO publication Global Health Essentials. The chapter, dubbed the Health Conversations Through Personal Communication Networks, is part of the WHO Strategic Communications Framework aimed at disseminating information to enhance health.
This is a culmination of the work that we've been doing, me and Derek Mpofu, performing at World Health Assembly in a number of times and working with various universities providing master classes, University of Geneva, University of Milano University, and others. We call it Conversations for Health.
All the work that we've done, we are quite proud that we've been included to add a voice into that work, showing how the health systems can be better.
The two have more than 30 songs that speak into various health issues, including COVID-19. Patience Nyagato, ZBC News, Harare.
Musicians billed to perform at this year's edition of the Jakaranda Music Festival have promised an explosive show.
The streets of Harare are currently a blaze of color and beauty, which signifies the Jacaranda trees season. As is the case, what a better way of enhancing this beauty than through the Jacaranda Music Festival, which brings people from diverse cultures together. 38 artists from across the globe, including Judith Sepuma, Lady Smith Blake Mambazo, Ami Faku, Daliwonga, and Zimbabwe's Alexio Kawara, Gwevedzi, Amara Brown, Manex, Intoto Band, and Gary Tite are billed to perform at the 3-day music extravaganza, which starts this Friday.
For me, this is something that I am really looking forward to. I have so much to give to people, and I would love to, just entertain them. When you get to have more artists that you've never seen perform live, I feel like this is my platform to learn. I'm going to learn a lot, obviously, seeing Judith Sepuma playing, because she's performing after me.
It's a dream come true for me. I'm really excited, and we've prepared a tight act for our fans in the world.
We are super excited about this weekend. We are right here in London, and we're happy to be coming back home for the Jakaranda Festival.
It's a great honor to be a part of this, because you interact and collabos are also made through that kind of interaction.
The festival kicked off this Wednesday with a workshop headlined by entertainment gurus from Spain and the USA and the Princess of Africa, Yvonne Chaka Chaka. The Jacaranda Music Festival was founded 5 years ago by Ngomaneo Show Arts Development Company with a view to bringing together artists from across the globe. Colette Msanyera, ZBC News, Harare.
The main news takes a break. We'll be back shortly with sport.
to Chairman of the Service Commissions, Dr. Vincent Hungwe, Commissioners of all Service Commissions, the Secretary to Service Commissions, Dr. Tsitsi R. Choruma, Heads of Agencies, Staff of Service Commissions and all civil servants wish to extend hearty congratulations to Mrs. Virginia Mabiza on her appointment as the Attorney General of the Republic of Zimbabwe. Mrs. Mabiza's appointment signifies a strategic intent and commitment by His Excellency, President Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, to ensure that there is steady and ethical stewardship of the rule of law, predicated on the defense of public interest and the protection and promotion of the laws of Zimbabwe. This is so because she has acquitted herself impeccably in the various legal contexts that she has served and is undoubtedly an apt custodian of the nation's laws. The Public Service Commission will remain available to support the Attorney General as needed from time to time. We are confident that the government will be well represented and that all the ministries, departments and agencies will benefit from her informed and deep understanding of the law. We wish Attorney General Mabiza a happy and productive tenure in her new post. May God Almighty sustain and energize her to advance Zimbabwe's National Vision 2030. Makorokoto Amhlope. Congratulations.
$1,500 movies? I don't want this flight to end.
It's the Premier League, all on DSTV. All the goals, clashes, and moments. All of Rashford, Salah, and Saka.
This start is getting better and better and better.
All in HD.
It just makes no sense.
Available on all these bouquets to choose from. To watch on all these devices. Stay connected for all the action. It's the Premier League, all on DSTV.
Welcome back. The Zimbabwe Football Association Normalization Committee has unveiled the roadmap to assemble a competitive Warrior squad ahead of the World Cup qualifiers, which get underway next month.
Doors have been opened for local football players to turn their dreams into reality, playing for the national team. With Zimbabwe having returned to international football after an 18-month suspension by World Football Governing Body FIFA, the FIFA Normalization Committee is set to utilize the upcoming international break to come up with a competitive Warrior squad. The window period will begin next Monday and last until the 18th of this month. The FIFA Normalization Committee is organizing a first-ever tournament that will give the Warriors technical team a platform to scout for new blood.
We have come up with sort of a tournament, selection tournament, which will have our northern region may be headed by Genesis. As you know, there's the assistant coach to Coach Brito. We have our southern region headed by Mafu, as also the assistant coach to Coach Brito. And we are saying the diaspora guys, whoever is playing in China, be it in Turkey, be it where, who feel has got something to offer in terms of playing for the national team. And this is the right time for them to come and embrace this. It's an opportunity that we are availing to them to come and participate.
Players are drawn from 4 teams, including the Northern region led by Dynamo's coach Genesis Mangombe, Southern region led by former Wange coach Bongani Mafu, diaspora team made up of foreign-based players, and the People's Choice team that will be voted by football fans will scramble for a place in the national team. The tournament will be played at the National Sports Stadium during the FIFA international break on dates to be announced. The top 2 teams will proceed to the final, where coach Baltema Brito is set to pick his hunters that will join experienced players such as Marvelous Nakamba, Tunutinda Kadewere, and Marshall Munetsi in the Warrior squad. The Warriors would then go into camp to prepare for a friendly encounter against Botswana before traveling to Rwanda for their first World Cup qualifier next month. Meanwhile, COSAFA President Arthur D. Alameda paid a courtesy call on the Zimbabwe Football Association Normalization Committee Chairperson Lincoln Mutasa at the FIFA offices this Thursday. Anna Shemurombedzi, ZBC News, Harare.
League returnees Wange eased past Bulawayo Chiefs with a 2-0 victory in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League match at Luveve Stadium this Thursday to go above their opponents on the PSL table.
First half goals were enough to give the coal miners a sweet 3 points and exchange positions with their opponents to occupy 8th position on the log. Nomadic forward Richard Mpelele provided an assist to Courage 2 minutes into the game before slotting Wange's winning goal. Bulawayo Chiefs head coach Johannes Numa was quick to admit his charges were crippled by complacency.
Complacency, if it cripples into your team, into your players, it becomes a problem for you to come back to where you belong. That's part of the game. That is how it is.
The visitors' goalkeepers coach Ed Mosivanda heaped praise on his charges after 3 wins on the trot.
Very well. We are trying to get points from every game that we play, and the boys are showing that they can do it. Despite having average players, we brought in only 3 to 4 players from the PSL, and the result happened. The team now is playing well.
Another Premier Soccer League match played in the Lowville. Triangle United drew 0-0 with the Giants Dynamos. The Glamour Boys are still 5th with 41 points, while the Sugar Boys are 3rd from the bottom. Mtokozi Stube, ZBC News, Bulawayo.
The Mighty Warriors are in a buoyant mood ahead of their 2023 COSAFA Women's Championship opening match against Lesotho at the Lucas Moripe Stadium in Pretoria, South Africa this Friday.
The Mighty Warriors are back to international football this Friday, following an 18-month absence after Zimbabwe was suspended by FIFA. The technical department selected a squad with a mixture of youth and experience as they cast one eye towards the Africa Women Cup of Nations and Olympic qualifiers. The Mighty Warriors conducted their last training session at the Wits University as they target a good start at the COSAFA Women's Championship in South Africa this Friday.
So far, we can go for tomorrow's match. You don't need to underrate any team. We are going to play in our own style, our own formation. Especially, we are going to impose our own style of playing.
Zimbabwe have a clean bill of health, and the technical department will choose a starting 11 from the 21 players available for selection. The Mighty Warriors are in Group C alongside Lesotho, Namibia, and Botswana. The winners of the group will progress to the semi-finals alongside the other 2 group winners and the best placed run-up from the 3 groups. Lawrence Trusida, ZBC News, Pretoria.
Now let's take a look at the weather.
Good evening once again, Zimbabwe. My name is Baba Maketa for today's edition of the Weather Report. And another hot day throughout the country. We had the sunny conditions throughout the country, and temperatures were in the range 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, except for the Eastern Highlands where we had temperatures in the 20s, that is 25 in Nyanga and 29 in Mutare and other areas. For tomorrow, we are not expecting any much changes. That is, we are expecting it to be sunny and hot throughout the country as we are approaching the beginning of the 2023-2024 rainfall season. Our temperatures in detail, tomorrow we are expecting the first batch of our major cities to have temperatures from 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, with the highest being Kadoma with a maximum of 35 degrees Celsius and a minimum of 14, followed by Bulawayo with a maximum of 34 and a minimum of 14, Harare 32 and 14. The next batch we are expecting the hottest to be Lupane with a maximum of 39 degrees Celsius and a minimum of 12, followed by Gwanda with a maximum of 35 and 13, then Chinoi 34 and 13, Masvingo 33 and 13, Bindura 34 and 13, and finally Marondera with a maximum of 31 and a minimum of 11 degrees Celsius. Our major holiday resort areas, we're expecting Kariba to be the hottest with a maximum of 40 degrees Celsius and a minimum of 22, followed by Victoria Falls with a maximum of 38 and a minimum of 17 degrees Celsius. The rest should be rather mild, especially in Nyanga with a maximum of 25 and a minimum of 7 degrees Celsius. And for our outlook, that is the weather for Saturday, we are expecting the same conditions to persist: clear skies, mild in the morning, and hot during the day. Thank you, Zimbabwe. That's all we had for you today. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Thank you so much there to the Met Department giving us the weather rundown, and that brings us to the end of the bulletin.
Good night.